Today I wanted to talk about buying hunting land. It's one of my favorite topics, something that I do a lot of research for. I'm sure you guys do as well if you're really big hunters. But I wanted to touch on a few things that are going to help in the planning process, maybe save you money down the road, maybe even make it affordable if it's something that you didn't think you could do. So the first thing, looking at local agents or the private market, what I mean by that is you don't always want to look on those most known websites. If you're looking on whitetail properties, you're probably going to be paying a big premium for that land. It's marketed well, people go there just for hunting properties, versus if you're looking out in the middle of nowhere and there's a couple of local real estate agents, they probably have websites that you've never heard of. I highly recommend you save those websites, you refresh them, every week or whatever, and take a new look. Because if the market is hot as it is right now, it's going to be quite difficult to be able to take your time. You got to be on top of things. But that's where you're also going to be able to find property that is not going to be potentially listed at a premium. It doesn't mean it won't be, but it means you have a better shot of finding something that maybe the soil's just okay, maybe they didn't even consider it hunting land and it was marketed as farmland, or it's kind of swampy for a portion of it, and things that can give you a big discount, but that might actually play well into your habitat goals. I know a lot of habitat managers talk about, the different types of trees and forest stand management, and how, the perfect, oak, maple, savanna isn't always the best thing that you want for your entire property, even though I know oaks and acorns can have a big benefit. The private market, what I mean by that is really going potentially door to door, someone that maybe a family friend that owns a property that might be selling down the road. Pay attention to that, ask questions. You never know unless you even put the idea in their head that they might be interested in selling. So keep that in the back of your mind, and that's also another way to possibly just make sure you're paying a fair price and not a huge premium. Neighbors and public land, when you guys are looking, obviously you may or may not know the neighbors at the time, but do a little bit of research, knock on a couple of doors, see what's going on. Is everyone hunting on every border? Maybe you have a border that touches public land. For public land, one of the things that I think would be more acceptable would be if you are on the backside and you don't think as many people will be walking back 3, 4, 10, whatever miles to that border that the property touches public land, you might be okay. But if there's a 2-check going right down and you think people are going to be flying by, pushing deer, even if they're onto your property, if you're looking at a smaller parcel, those deer aren't going to stay on the property. They're going to fly right off, and you're going to be super annoyed sitting in your stand. So that might not be as advantageous as you think, being able to have public land adjoining and walk on and use the public land just like everyone else. Even though from ability to hunt more land, it would be nice, don't get me wrong. Lenders and rates. I did quite a bit of research on lenders, guys. The lender that I used for the farm was Greenstone, and I know they're primarily in the Midwest, but they're one of few that will do recreational hunting loans on tracts that are over 10 acres. I did find 1 or 2 banks that, still did that category, but they did not do over 10 acres typically, and would not do the loan. So I know there's only a couple to my knowledge around the country, but do your research, see how those work. Rates typically on these types of land are generally higher. That's what I've found, so don't be discouraged. It's better to know that going forward if you're 1% or 2 above what a primary house mortgage would be, then it's pretty typical. So additionally, when it comes to lenders, some have different fees, things of that nature. I know I had to pay an extra $1,000 for equity in their own stock, but they do issue a refund at the end of each year to kind of pay some of that interest back, which was really nice. I basically got that initial $1,000 back almost after my first year. So if you're going to own the property a long time, it might end up working out a little in your favor. The other neat things about Greenstone is that they do offer other terms, so 20-year, 15-year, 30-year, things like that. If you want to build, they have building loans, things of that nature. So a couple ways to look at it there. Down payment versus cash. Guys, this is a big one for me, being a financial advisor by day, I guess you could say. Some people have the means and they can pay cash. Of course, depends on the amount and the size of the property and everything else going on in your life. versus a down payment. Lenders like Greenstone and pretty much, I would assume, anyone in this category are going to require about 20% down. And that's a big chunk, so that's something that you want to be planning for. Now I would say, again, in the planning process, being an advisor, being a financial advisor, you definitely want to weigh the two, especially with rates being this low. Whenever I'm putting a plan together for someone, I almost always see when they utilize the low rates that we have today, which could change in the future, that they're going to be better off in the long run paying the down payment and using the lending than throwing a large chunk of cash on there. I always see people putting in a plan, maybe a second home, maybe a new boat down the road, and when you see those large chunks taken out at one time away from your retirement plan, you're much worse off than if you were to just pay the smaller 20%, let the rest of the money work in the market, and earn more than what current interest rates are. Hope that makes sense. HELOC, farm leases, logging, and grants. I put these down because they are all things that can help you make it a little bit more affordable. Typically, it's after you've bought the property. Now, for the HELOC, of course, you could have that HELOC set on your primary home. You could use that for the down payment. But just remember, when you have equity in your home, you're not just getting that cash for free. It is making your loan larger if you're doing a cash out refi or in a home equity line. You're taking out a different loan essentially, and you're going to have a different payment. So you're going to have two payments going, one for the HELOC for the down payment and one for the mortgage. So bear that in mind. Sometimes people get a little bit of confusion between the refi and the HELOC. But if you're able to earn the money later through farm leases or maybe having a portion of it logged if it's a largely wooded property, you could use the HELOC up front for the down payment, come back later, pay the HELOC off, that after that first year or what have you, and just kind of use it as a stepping stone. Excuse me. When it comes to logging and grants, typically it takes a little bit of time, especially for the grants. I inquired a little bit about them, and they basically allow you to apply either once or twice a year. Then it takes a little bit to get approved, and then it takes a little longer for you to be able to get the money to potentially hire a forester and have the state pay for that, which goes into the last topic, habitat managers and foresters. Try and get these going as soon as you can. A lot of people, maybe they've had the land in their family for a long time and they've been doing plots here and adding lime and fertilizer here. Well, if a habitat manager or a forester comes in after the fact and changes everything on you, then you basically maybe wasted all of that money and time. Whereas if you get it done at the beginning, you know which trees are going to benefit your goals and what you need to get rid of, what you want to keep. And habitat manager wise, get that plan established. You get that plan from the get-go, you're able to go ahead and start working on where you want food plots, where you want to do some forest stand improvement, and not worry about making a big mistake and cutting down maybe a bunch of trees that you shouldn't have, so on and so forth, planting seed that cover shouldn't go there, or whatever the case may be. So try and get that done as soon as possible once you're able to acquire the land. If you guys have any questions on these topics, go ahead and leave a comment below. I'll try and answer them. I have a little bit of experience just based on my job, but also the process that I went through and I'm still going through. So I'm happy to help in any way I can, and we'll see you next time.